Hey, what's up, you guys? Johnny Bean here. This is exclusively Van Halen, the Van Halen Show on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook. You guys, let's do this. Let's just get into it. This is Johnny Bean TV. Whoa, here we go. You guys, Johnny Bean here. It's Tuesday, so it's exclusively Van Halen, the Van Halen Show on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, on the podcast. We got Ron Gunner with us.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, man?
Not much at all.
Very good.
Just playing with
and also, oh, look at that, dude. Very nice. See, Jacques, you can tell there's a podcast. I've got all the noises and sounds.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it.
But hey, you guys, let's introduce our guest, and then we'll get into the show. Jacques Van Gool, Backstage Auctions.
Correct. We
talked about something last Wednesday, actually, which is very cool. We're going to talk more about an incredible auction coming up next month, right? Just in a few days.
Actually, it starts Saturday. So technically last month, you're right. June 1st.
June 1st. Today's May 28th, 2024. Yeah. So Jacques is here. We're going to talk about the Alex Van Halen collection. We're going to talk about backstage auctions. But first, let's make this a real show. We got to say hello and thank you to the top tier of our channel members here on YouTube. Channel membership, it's a great way to help support the channel and support these shows. This is pretty much a daily show. The top tier are the executive producers, and they're currently Sherman Callahan, CC, Nova 9, Michael Smith, Music Therapy, Laz, Arhabs, Warlag, Fairfield Guitar Co., Majestic PB and J Cat, and Janice Lala. Good to see you guys. So there you go. Well, hey, let's get into this. Jacques. So Ron and I, we went live last Wednesday. It wasn't even a scheduled show. We just happened to go live. We're like, we got to talk about this auction that people, because I run one of the bigger Van Halen Facebook groups called Exclusively Van Halen, and so when there's news, people start messaging me. Stuff like, hey, did you see this? Did you hear about this? Whatever. And so I started getting messages about this Van Halen, Alex Van Halen auction. Mm-hmm. Very interesting items for one thing, but very interesting that it looked like that he's cleaning out his warehouse. I guess
that's exactly what it is. And I think it's nothing more and nothing less. It's tempting, I think, to read more into it and to speculate and to create all kinds of assumptions. I don't think people should do that. This is a guy who, had a massive warehouse, and what he shared with Ed. As a matter of fact, there were 3 warehouses, if you wish, and one was just Al stuff, the other one was Eddie stuff, and then there's a joint one, so to speak. And it's like it's collecting dust, and if you're not going to use it anytime soon, or maybe at all, then what's the point of continuing to pay rent, on a big warehouse? And so, I think it was just simply born out of, pragmatism first, like what am I going to do with all this? But I think then subsequently a few other thoughts or considerations crept in. One was, um, wouldn't this be great and wouldn't this be cool to share this, to make it public and make it available, and give people a chance to walk away with it, with a piece, be it a small piece, a big piece, whatever it is. The other thing is that Al was very um, taken by this right on therapeutic horsemanship
Mm-hmm.
organization, which is something that his wife is also very very active in. And he just all of a sudden thought like, hey, I can combine some dots here. I can get rid of the warehouse. I can hopefully make a whole bunch of people happy, and I can donate proceeds to a charity that's very near and dear to my heart. And so I think it is what it is. It's face value, and I would encourage people to really not dig deeper, and don't go past that and draw conclusions or make assumptions. This is a guy that just empties a warehouse. And I think if you take a step back, and of course, if this is your favorite band, this is your favorite artist, and you're just looking at that, then you may not necessarily see that this is more common than you think. I've been in this business for over 2 decades, but there's also a handful of other auction homes in the United States that do similar things. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people, and it's not just musicians, it's athletes, it's movie actors, etc., that just get to a point where they go like, what am I going to do with all this? I got so much. And it can be very liberating, to just let go of it. That doesn't mean that, you will never play drums anymore, or it doesn't mean that you will never shoot hoops anymore, or, act in a
Mm-hmm.
movie. It just means you're cleaning up, So, this actually started the first time we had the first conversation we had was 3 years ago. And that's when we started kicking around the idea of, hey, is this a good time to start, cleaning up? And I think we were still a little bit in the, middle to tail end of COVID. And we said, let's just let the whole COVID thing, go by and see where we are. And then, let's plan. And like with so many things, I always say, the moon and the stars need to properly align. And in this case, it happened last year, August. Last year, August is when Al, called and said, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to,
Hmm.
give notice to the landlord, so to speak. And if you guys want to come out and let's get going. And when I say you guys, it's really two people it's me, but it's also John Douglas, who you probably have
Mm.
heard of. And
Yes.
John and I have known each other a long time. We go fairly way back. And the one thing, we have a lot of things in common, but one of the things we have in common is we're both in Houston. And and I've done some work in the past with John, and John was the one that said, hey, Al is thinking about cleaning up the warehouse, and if that ever happens, would you be interested? And it's like one of those questions like, well, twist my arm, would I be interested, to work with Alex Van Halen? So we took it slow, and for me, it was just a natural process. Like, I'm excited about the prospect, but it happens when it happens, kind of thing. And it happened last August. So went to LA, spent a considerable amount of time in LA with Al. And we took our time to go through everything, had everything palletized. It ended up, no joke, but it's one of these, what is it, 58-foot, trailers, these 18-wheelers, and as I said, it was road cases, and everything else went on pallets. And when the last pallet went on the truck, the door was just barely able to close, just to give you an idea of the volume that went on that truck. Um,
Man.
but so within a week, it was delivered to Houston at our warehouse. We unpacked it. We couldn't do anything with it because we had a couple other auctions scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And usually in this business, you tend to schedule your auctions 6, 9, sometimes 12 months in advance. And I had said to Al, I said, I can take receipt of it. I'm happy to take receipt of it because that way I knew I actually had it. I said, but you got to wait about 9 months before I can do this auction. And he was in no hurry. He said, that's fine. So we had this stuff for a long time, but we didn't really start like unpacking it till, I want to say, December, January is when we started working on it. And
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to commit to a start date because I had no earthly idea how long it was going to take us, to put this thing together. And it really took, I would say, a good almost 5 months, to figure this thing out, and um, somebody asked me, like, was it really that hard to figure it out? And I said, well, you kind of have to imagine, having a square mirror, a round mirror, an oval mirror, and a diamond shaped mirror. And somebody breaks them in pieces and puts them all in one box and then said, put them back together. But as a kicker, they're not going to be complete. So, so that's how this felt, because, you have almost 40 years of stuff sitting on shelves. And, you know, one thing about Al, who in a way was very similar to Eddie, um, he would rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. Meaning, if he had a kid and he had used the kit and he was done with the kit, he wasn't necessarily done with the kit. He would be done with most of the kit, but he would like that floor tom or that snare or that cymbal. And then he would take that and work that into the next kit. And then he had the next kit, and
Yeah.
then he would change things. Or he would have a kick drum that he loved. And he's like, you know what? I like the kick drum, but let's just cut 2 inches off because it may sound different. And I'd like to know what it sounds like. Or let's drill a hole in it, and on and on and on. And,
Yes.
you know, Eddie obviously, and for all the right reasons, has been labeled the tone chaser and the eternal tinkerer. But you know what? Alex was no different. He was constantly looking for that next sound, that improved sound. And so when you have a warehouse full of drums, it's not that straightforward. It's not like, well, this kit was exclusively used for that tour or for that album. And once it was retired, it was retired. No, it wasn't. It was, some pieces were refurbished, some pieces were mixed up, some pieces were put on the shelf for 10 years and then used again.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a challenge, to figure this thing out. And John was at our studio, not every day, but at least once or twice a week, and just going over it and mixing and matching and figuring it out and looking at it and trying to photo match some of this stuff, which is another thing that's really not that easy because as opposed to guitars, like with a guitarist, they're when they're being photographed, they're usually fairly close up, and you usually can see good details on a guitar. But with a
Mm-hmm.
drum kit, and especially Alex's drum kits, which were monstrous, and there's so much going on, and there's so much stuff, and it's hidden. It's not that easy. Plus, a lot of it was pre-digital era, so you got these grainy photos and
Yeah.
these grainy videos, and so, but we had fun. We had a lot of fun figuring it out, and I hope, I sincerely hope that we figured it out. I hope that we didn't make a mistake. But it could very well be, that there's a diehard fan, and I'm sure there's lots of them out there that they look at this auction and they go like, right?
That's what we did last week. Last
Well,
week,
but it's,
we
they'll look at a cymbal or a snare,
yeah,
or and go like, hey, that's not 86, that's 88, or and
right,
and perhaps rightfully so.
yeah, yeah, and that's the one thing though. Van Halen fans, especially on Facebook, they're always right,
They are absolutely
always.
always.
So,
Always.
so, but no, seriously, we last week we went through. Did we go through all this, Ron? We went through
A lot of it. Yeah.
most of it. I mean, yeah, and a lot of the I guess some of them say they're highlights, like highlight stuff, and some of the stuff from say like that was used like in a music video. Like that's something I was saying to Ron. It's like the drum set from Pound Cake music video. Like that's we've never seen like photos of that close up or like or any of Alex's drums. Like we've never seen that because like what you were saying, usually when it's photos of a band, the drummer's all the way in the back. And so there's some amazing photos that go along with these pieces, and it is it's just. Let me ask you one question really quick. Okay, and we got a question here. Music Stream is asking, who is Jacques? Jacques is the owner of the auction house.
Right.
So there's something like 350 items here.
372.
372.
Yeah.
What's the most that anybody has brought that anybody's brought to you to put up for auction? The most items.
I think our largest auction ever was probably close to 2,000 lots.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. 372 is anywhere between small and barely mid-size. So, and
Wow.
trust me, I'm very happy with the number. I don't think I would have necessarily wanted 500 or 1,000 items. I really, really like the size because I think it's big enough for there to be plenty of variety, without being overwhelmed. And again, you have to make decisions, and about how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I often say, putting an auction together is kind of like being a chef at a restaurant, and it's early in the morning, and you get all your deliveries. You get your meats and your fish and your produce and your desserts and everything, and you got to make the menu. You got to make the menu out of what's in front of you. And I always try to keep things simple, and go like, all right, how many kick drums do we have? How many snare drums do we have? You know what? Let's just make a category for this and for that and for that. And I think that as a potential buyer or as a collector, you can look at this auction and you go like, well, I'm totally not interested in kits, or I'm totally not interested in gongs or whatever. Well, that's great. Skip it. Just go to what you like. And so we try to make it as plain and simple as we can, and but 372 is what we consider kind of small-ish. But at the same time, for this particular auction, I would say it's big enough.
I would say, I mean, as a Van Halen fan, I mean, I'm still a huge fan, but I was a huge memorabilia collector, Van Halen collector for a lot of years in the
Right.
most of the '90s, well, still today even, but and like this stuff in this auction, we're seeing stuff here that's it's just incredible just to think that some of this stuff that even he even had some of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um,
Like the awards were, the awards were kind of interesting. So we were in in the shared locker, meaning the stuff that the locker that both had some of Al's stuff as well as Eddie's stuff,
mm-hmm,
and the let's say the piano was there and a couple other things, and um, I found this road case, and I opened it up, and it is literally loaded with record awards, and there must have been easily 100 record awards in there. It's like, oh my gosh! But on top, what I could see, all those record awards were issued to Al, and it's like, damn, there, there's like 100 Alex Van Halen record awards. So I figured, like, you know what, let me take them out and kind of spread them out, and so that when he comes in, he can take a look at it, etc. And I had done so, and there were like 30 something, even though there's only 29 listed, and I'll explain why that
mm-hmm.
number got a little bit less. But after I like pulled out the first 30 or 35 awards, the rest was all Eddie's awards.
Mm.
And you can't help but you just pause. You gotta pause. And um, I mean, I've seen 1,000 record awards in my life, if not 2,000. But to hold these awards in your hands, that's kind of special. And but anyway, I obviously I didn't touch Eddie's stuff. I just pulled out Al's, and when Al came, he actually kept a couple. Um, and interestingly enough, the ones, or most of the ones that he kept, were the ones issued to his parents. Um, and one of his sons was there too, and he took a few awards, but like for instance, the gold and platinum for the debut album, it's like, nah, let somebody else enjoy it. And and I think that kind of goes to his character. L is and I'm not saying I know him extremely well. I don't, but I think it doesn't take much for people to understand that he's not one for trophies per se, and he's such a pure musician, that for him it's really all about the music, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think he is very content with someone, wherever that is in the world, having that hanging on his or her wall. um, because the other cool thing about that too is that if you truly care about, and he does, about legacy, that's what keeps legacies alive, is to put
Mm-hmm.
this in the homes of other people, and they're going to cherish it, they're going to preserve it. Eventually they're going to pass it down the line to either another collector or maybe another family member. um, but that thing will probably survive all of us in the end,
Yeah.
and I think that's the beauty of it, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's so incredible. And yeah, I did notice, yeah, several of these, and man. Hey, Mickey, what's up? Let's say hi really quickly to some people in the chat here. We got Mickey, we got Music Stream, we got Motobot, one of my moderators. We got Janice Lala, the intern. We got Scott. We got Jay Turner. We got Brian Davies. We got about 59 watching currently
Rock Daddy.
right now. Dakota is here. Skyprop. Hey, dudes. Max Server. Yeah, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as well. Steve Anderson over on Facebook. Thank you, Jacques. I have won 2 original Kiss Gold Floater RIAA record awards from your site.
I know Steve. Hi, Steve.
You know Steve. You know
I
Steve
know
Anderson
Steve.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve Anderson is
not
awesome.
Not personally, but through the years, you see these names, So yeah, I know Steve Anderson. Again, we've never met in person, but
he actually used to host a show on this channel.
Oh, he did.
We're trying to get him back too. So
there you go,
Steve. We miss you.
You know, I find it interesting. You were talking about the kits and being able to put them together and having to go from all. And when we were talking about this last Wednesday, Thursday, I'm thinking, wow, look at Alex drum kits. And I was trying to think who that had to, I'm thinking, okay, that's got to be the worst one to try to work with. Then I thought, wait, there's only one more other person that would probably be worse, would be Neil Peart.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
That would be the other one, because I mean, yeah, you saw a lot of his photos from the top, but I mean, he had stuff 360, and I'm thinking that between Neil and Alex, that's got to be your 2 top for drummers.
Hands down. And then there's, thanks, Steve. Please do. I think there's another guy, and I apologize. I probably have this wrong. Teddy Bozio, is Teddy his first name? He was Frank Zappa's drummer. You can look him up, but this guy had drum kits that barely fit in an airplane hangar. I mean, it was so over the top and experimental, but yes, you're right. In terms of just big, elaborate, complicated kits, L, and you definitely got Neil, and Neil probably, because what's interesting is it's almost like Neil went the opposite direction as L, meaning L quickly went bigger, and then he reached that top, and then he kind of started to downsize again. Whereas Neil truly continued to make him bigger and bigger and bigger. He never scaled him back down. And but yeah, that's you cannot put these together without the help of, in this case, like a John Douglas, who's been around L for almost 30 years, and
he's his drum tech.
Yeah, he's the drum tech, and quite frankly, and this is no dig, but he knows it better than L, and L was laughing. I mean, he's a funny guy to begin with, but we would get stuck. We would be working on a kit and we would get stuck. It's like, was it this? Was it that? Let's text him. So we text him, hey, Al, how about this? Or how about that? And then we take picture, and he would text back almost right away all the time. And he would say, I don't know, but I hope that helps. And it was like, no, that doesn't help. Or another text that we got back, we laughed. It was funny, but, so again, we got stuck. And so we took quick pictures, texted it to him. And the first text we got back was, I don't know. And then 5 seconds later, we got another text. I don't remember. And 5 seconds later, we got a third text, or vice versa. So, and I get that, and I've been very fortunate, through those years to work with a lot of musicians, because that's kind of, our setup as a company, when I started Backstage Auctions, I wanted to primarily represent either musicians or people that in some professional capacity are part of the music business. And for the most part, when you do work with musicians, and especially ones that have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, every day is a circus in their life.
Hmm.
And when they get to, let's say to clean out a warehouse or clean out a locker or whatever it is, 9 out of 10 times they just cannot remember details, and I get that, because from the moment they wake up to the moment they close their eyes again, it's a constant and a nonstop of activities, and I understand that, living that life, I mean, you're happy that they remember even, let's say the titles of the albums that they made. It's like, let alone the details that we, as fans, want to hear about.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is as fans talk about this stuff every day, all day on Facebook.
Yeah.
They talk about, oh, that album, that song, that, whatever. And we're guilty. We talk about all this stuff, on this show. But the musician or the artist, that was just, 1 year of their life 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And they moved on and they maybe did that 20 more times since then. And talking about like a circus, that's how I always, like, when we were backstage, we were talking about Bill Coyne, and I was talking about how I used to live with Desmond Child. When I lived at Desmond's house, every day was like that. Yeah. Every day was a total circus, and that was back before cell phones, before any of that. So I wish I could have documented more of like that time, just for myself.
Yeah.
But I can every day. Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like for some artists where they say, they look at an instrument and they're like, God, I use that on something. They don't know. And then some nerd on Facebook says, oh, you use that on this song, on this record, on that tour. And they're like, huh? Like,
It took you 6 takes.
Exactly.
And I've heard them all,
Right. John told me a really interesting story. So when he joined, Van Halen as Alex's tech,
Mm-hmm.
He joined right before the start of the tour, and I can't remember what tour it was, but it was a tour in the '90s. And Al said, first thing I want to do, is pick all the drums that I want to take with me. He said, so I want to start with my snares. He said, so let's, set up the snares, and I want to just play all of them, even if it's for 30 seconds. And John said, okay, and he was really thinking like, okay, there's like 3 or 4 snares that are going to set up. And he ended up setting up about 35 snares. And it took about half a day just for Al to pick out a snare. And he said, okay, now let's move on to the kick drums or the floor toms or what have you. And so it took forever, to put a kit together. And he said, and Al joked, he said, don't worry. He said, we only do this one time. And he said, which wasn't true. Because he said, we would, let's say, put it together, and then we would rehearse, and then he would change it again. And then when we had figured it out, and we would go on the road, he said, I had to bring so much stuff, like backups, because, again, it's this tone chaser thing, and the 3 of us probably just don't even hear it. We just don't have those ears, but it can be the smallest, slightest, littlest thing, that, and I'm going to actually, this reminds me of an even better story. Um, but again, knowing what constantly goes on in that head and the constant changing and tweaking and tinkering and toying, etc. Of course, after all that time, you don't remember, but one of the things that I personally found fascinating was so we're in the warehouse and we're pulling stuff off the shelves, and there's this box, and it just had written on the box um, four different, um, and it wasn't, I think, in decimals too, but it was grams, and this gram, that gram, that gram. And I'm like, what is that? So we open the box, and it's filled with drumsticks. But on top of the drumsticks was a skill. And I said to John, what is this? And he looks at it, he starts laughing, and he said, all right, you get a kick out of this. He said, so Al, first of all, he has a different stick for the left hand and the right hand often, whereby one stick is just anywhere from half to 3/4 inch longer than the other. And it kind of makes sense, because you usually drum this way, and depending on the distance of that wrist or hand to that drum, and you want to hit it right in that center, um, you know, having a stick that maybe is a little shorter, a little longer can help.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't so much it. It wasn't the fact that there's two different sizes. It was the fact that those two different sizes came in four different weights. And the skill that he had, John had to weigh every single stick individually, because there was like a light, a medium light, a medium heavy, and a heavy. And then each stick, like on the light one, he at the butt end, he would put a dot. And then the medium light was one circle, the medium heavy was two circles, and the heavy was three circles. And then in his drum back, he would have a bunch of in all four weights. And L knew exactly what stick to use for what song, what length, and what weight. And we're talking grams. It's not like a 1 pound or a 2 pound stick. No,
Yeah.
we're talking about a 245-gram stick and a 256-gram stick. There's probably not a human being that can feel the difference except for L, and he knew exactly what stick for what song. And I mean, I think that's fascinating.
Wow.
I think that is awesome, and I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to touch this box. I want to keep this box as it is with the skill and the sticks, because I find beauty in stuff like that, and it's not always all about, the $50,000 drum kits, yeah, that's great too, but I think this is just as great. It's just as fascinating, and anyway, I digress, which I do a lot. So please stop me. But I find that stuff fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Joe.
And that item or that box is that up for auction?
Yeah, it
That's
is.
up.
If you go to the section with drumsticks, let's see if you can pull that up for me.
Yeah, I'm looking. I see the 75 sets of drumsticks.
Yeah, it's a little bit towards. So first you get the whole list of individual sticks because those are all used, and then we go to like the bigger bulk lots. But there is a lot that. Let me see here. I can probably pull it up too real quick. Give me a minute. I can tell you in a second.
Oh yeah. Okay, you got all the sticks.
Okay, it's lot number
200 pairs.
1257.
1257. There it is. Oh yeah, wasn't there was a photo of this box on the flyer that you made that
Yeah.
you have, right? Yeah.
Oh, there it is. So those numbers
Yeah.
449, 469, 489, and 509, that's grams. So each stick only has a 20-gram difference.
Wow.
I know, right?
2008 tour. Cool. Dang.
So how many sticks are in there? Do you know?
In that box, I think, does it say 94 or something? Uh,
It says 82 pairs of unused.
82 pairs. There you go. 82
Mm-hmm.
pairs. So 82 times 2. So 164 sticks.
Wow. And that's the scale.
That's the skill, you know. And if you click on that next photo of the skill, you see that little cutout
Oh
right
yeah,
right under the word reverend. So
yeah.
Oh,
John,
right there.
yeah, yeah, John cut that out so he could put a stick, in that cutout so it wouldn't
Oh,
roll off the
wow.
skill.
Wow.
Right? But
So cool.
again, I go back to what I keep saying is that, and again, rightfully so. Eddie Van Halen is known as and referred to as the tone chaser, but don't tell me that that is not tone chasing either.
Oh,
Because it's
yeah.
exactly the same thing. If you take it to
Yep.
that level, and this is geek level 10.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
I know, right?
So, let me ask you about yourself. Do you play in it? Do you play music? Do you play instruments?
And it cannot have a name, but yes, I used to play a little bit of drums. I The drum has always been my favorite instrument. And I started off playing drums, had lessons and all that, had a little drum kit. Um, and I think this was probably mid 70s when I started. And I was just a huge Kiss fan. So it was all about Peter Criss, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the guy that for me, uh, brought up that excitement about drummers and drumming and all that. But and there's been a few others, but Alex Van Halen was one of them too. And we're both Dutch. You probably already picked up on the accent, but I too was born in the Netherlands, and Van Halen was extremely popular in the Netherlands because it was like, oh my God, these are two Dutch guys from the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
so that really resonated well. And Al had such a different and unique, style. And, but, I always felt that, from let's say the 100 people that play an instrument, 95 play the instrument, the other five are one with the instrument. They just are born with that natural talent. And I had a lot of friends that I grew up with that too started playing music, and quite a few of them had that natural talent, and I didn't. And I was like, I'm just wasting my time. I mean, I sound like a caveman banging on stuff. It doesn't even sound great, and I just never felt that I had the natural talent, to truly pursue it. So I backed off, from playing music myself. But I've never lost the passion, for music. And my other passion was history. I just loved everything that had to do with history. And, you combine those two, music and history, and, that for me translated in, just having an absolute passion, for like for instance, a box with drumsticks, because
Mm-hmm.
I love the story behind it, and quite honestly, I think that you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 pieces that are collectibles do have a story. And that's one of the things that I do like about the auctions that we do and doing auctions in general is, I always say you can only sell it once, and it's not so much that we are just trying to sell the item. I always say if there's a story to tell the story, because you can only tell it once. And
Mm-hmm.
once it's sold, I can't tell the story afterwards, so again, if whatever information we have, whatever stories we have, I really like to always make that part of the description, of the item, just so that that part of the history doesn't get lost, that it's preserved. Because, once people know the story and they, buy an item like that, they won't forget about it. They will remember that. And we talked a little bit earlier about, preserving, a history. And I think this is a great way to preserve it.
Definitely,
Hmm.
definitely is.
I noticed on your client list you had Pantera. Are you the house that sold Vinnie Paul stuff?
Sure did. Sure did. Yeah, there's several bands for whom we have done multiple auctions, and I've done a lot of auctions, for people in and around Kiss, and we've done quite a few auctions for Megadeth and for Anthrax, Slipknot. We've done a couple, and probably a few other bands that I forget, but Pantera too. It started maybe 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, when we got contacted by Walter O'Brien, who was Pantera's manager. And Walter had retired, and we ended up selling, his entire collection. Once we did that, it obviously caught the attention of the Pantera organization. And then Rex Brown reached out to us, and Rex was still living in Dallas at the time. He has since moved. So I went up to Dallas a couple times and worked with Rex and sold a lot of his gear and instruments and record awards and personal stuff. And so I've been on the radar of the Pantera organization, so to speak. And then, of course, when Vinny passed away, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we got to clean out his house, in Arlington, Texas, but also in Vegas, and we don't know what to do with all this." So I spent quite a bit of time, at the Arlington house, which was kind of fun,
They
sad and fun, But you talk about a party pad, a
Yeah,
bachelor
didn't
party
didn't he
pad.
have a whole drum set like a chandelier when you walked in the door?
And not in the door. It was upstairs, but
Yeah,
yes, he had some interesting chandeliers for sure.
yeah.
Uh,
There was a
and
there's a guy on here that I watch that runs a studio over in England, and I think he bought a bunch of
Yeah, correct. That's
yeah,
that's
like
Ron Gannon.
yeah. He had the boots, the hat,
Yeah,
jeans, and a bunch of snares and drum.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he even got the guitar. I think that Dime gave Vinny.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Ron bought a lot of stuff, or Steve. Sorry, Steve Gannon. He bought a lot of stuff. I think we even had, one or two road cases that he ended up buying to put everything in, which was a lot easier to ship
Ship.
overseas because
Yeah,
it all had to go to England. And but um, so that was the Vinnie Paul auction, and I'm not gonna be specific here, but there is some more to come in the near future, and I'll leave the rest up to y'all's imagination.
So, do you think everything for this Alex's auction will sell, or do you?
You know, you never know. We definitely have had some. what we call home run auctions in the past, where we literally sold every single thing. So it certainly has happened in the past. Um, all I can say with this one is I hope so, but I hope that for every auction. I think I have reasons to be optimistic that even if not everything sells, I like to think that probably a lot of it will sell. Um, the challenge that you have specifically with drummers is, everybody has room in their house for a guitar or for a record award or for a couple dozen guitars. And and
120.
there you go. And that's a nice collection too. Absolutely. And sometimes you can squeeze in, a couple amps and cabinets and what have you.
Well, don't tell our wives that.
Right? No, I know. But trying to squeeze a drum kit, in your house is a different thing. I mean,
Yeah, especially
that's
one of Alex's,
I know. And now you can be creative, you don't have to set it up, you can definitely stack, kits,
Mhm.
which actually is kind of a cool creative effect. And we got plenty of kits that are just the drums, it has the kick drums and, the toms and maybe the floor toms or a combination thereof. Um, but yeah, that's usually a little harder to sell. And it's the same with road cases. I mean, we've got beautiful road cases, but, that's like buying furniture.
Yeah.
And I've seen people being very creative with road cases, turning them into coffee tables, turning them sideways and making bookcases out of it. I've seen one person even making a fridge out of a road case. Yeah, like that. I mean, but super cool. I mean, I love that stuff. And what I think is great too about most of the road cases is they were loaded with stuff.
Mm.
And so, and the stuff that they were loaded with is included.
It's all included.
Inc-
Yeah, we didn't touch a thing. It's like whatever is in there stays in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, when you were at Alex's warehouse, like a lot of the drums and all the stuff, were they in cases? Were they all just put away? Was there anything set up?
Nope. It was stacked on shelves.
Hmm.
And in no particular order, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, here it is. So imagine literally a warehouse with rows of shelving units, and everything was just stacked on those shelving units. And the bottom portion, was left open, and that's where they kept all the road cases. But like, for instance, the 2015 tour kit, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that comes in 6 road cases. 6. Whoever is going to buy that, that's just a truck alone, for scroll down a little.
Is
No,
this it?
hold on. Yeah, that's the one. Click on that.
I saw this one at the NAM show. It was on display like in
Yeah, that
2016.
was not that one.
Oh,
A lot of
really?
people, a lot of
It was
people
a different
think
one?
that a lot of people think that that's that one, and I'll answer that in a second. But scroll down a little further. Okay, so that photo on the far right, kind of towards the bottom, yeah, that one
This one?
yeah, click on that. So that entire kit comes in those 6 road cases.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ron, I want this one, okay?
Yeah, well, okay.
Well, I want somebody to want it, because I would love to have those 6 road cases out of my studio. You know, It's like if that stuff sells, I think my building will just like burp from excitement. Like it's gone. It's like after a heavy meal to relieve yourself. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Will those
Six
fit in
Some
your new studio, Johnny?
those will definitely not fit in my new studio, but I would like to think they would. Somebody's
what
going to
you
get
saw.
this,
So
you
what you
know?
saw at NAM,
Yes.
what you saw. So Al had two kits for the 2015 tour. He had his road kit, which is that one. That is truly the kit that was used on the tour. Every single show was played on that kit, and that's the one that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But L being L, he usually had a backup for a lot of things. So he had a backup kit that was identical to the road kit. The
Okay.
backup kit he never played, and that was the one that kind of was around and was on display, for instance, at NAM.
Yeah.
Um,
Couple
so
places. Yeah.
yeah, a couple places indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
was it L's kit 100%? But it was that was the backup kit. We have the tour kit.
Wow, man.
That's a picture, by the way, that John took, John Douglas.
Mm-hmm. I Man, I'm just imagining just how much information John Douglas had, with all this stuff, and
Hmm. He, it, you know,
just incredible.
he himself could write you know, a massive book or a series of books, about, his years on the road with Van Halen, and in particular, of course, Alex, and all the ins and outs. And I mean, the guy has so much knowledge. Kind of weird. I
Yeah.
know we're digressing here, but if you can click out of that listing and just go back one page.
Let's see.
Okay, so scroll
That
to
one.
the next lot, 1073.
One.
Yeah,
Oh
that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is
So
this is something we had some questions about this one actually. Yeah.
I know he never played it, but th- that thing is so freaking beautiful. I mean, and again, it's whatever your taste is, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think that black and gold, is just so classy. Um, but yeah, that was put together and bought, to be the next tour kit. And what's great about that too, not only, was it going to be his next tour kit, um, but an interesting little fact, if you can scroll down to that image that has all the symbols right there in the middle, click on that. Um, so um, on the 2015 tour, that was the first tour that Al had what we call branded symbols, meaning it had the logo stamped, branded into the symbol. And in 2015, the logo was red. On this tour, because the kit was black, the Van Halen logo was black. And these are literally the only symbols that have the black Van Halen logo screened on them. Again, they were never used, but that was going to be one of the unique things, for Al, on that tour.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But that kid is so
Wow.
beautiful, like visually beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. There's a symbol we can see. There we
Yeah.
go.
So do you know the story behind that?
No,
Okay.
do
So
not.
in 1984, um, they used that little character, the man with the hammer,
Yeah, yeah,
which
that's they're out here, and I see that guy every day on the back of the trucks. That's the
exactly it's
Western Exterminator Company.
exactly it's that exterminator company in California, and they loved that image so much that they made a deal with the company at that time to basically buy a one-time license, so to speak.
Hmm.
And they did that, and that was it. So fast forward, 30 something years later, when L was, having this whole pasty series of symbols made, there was the Reverend L's Big Ride. And he wanted to have the little man with the hammer on it again. And he did. And somehow this company got wind of it. And they actually filed a cease and desist for
Hmm.
him using their logo, without obtaining a licensing agreement. So he was like, well, F you. If I can't use that, then I'll make another one, which is the guy flipping him off as a response to the company that wouldn't let him use the man with the hammer logo.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
that's the story behind why that guy is flipping him off.
I see those guys all the time. I think he's called. I think it's Little Man. Is the it's something? It's like Little Man, and he's actually looking down at a little mouse, and he's got
Uh,
the hammer, the mallet.
Let me see here if
He goes back to like the 20s or something. That character.
yeah.
I used to see that character all the time when I lived in Arizona. I would always pass by the Western Exterminator. This is before Van Halen even used it. This is back in the early '80s.
Hmm.
But it's
Um,
like Little Man or Tiny Man, something like that. Let's
let me
see,
see here.
Western Exterminator.
That's not it either. Um, I know we have, uh, but for the life of me, I can't uh, remember which one it was. But we have one of those original ones
Hmm.
in the auction somewhere. But again, don't ask me trying to figure out where it's at. I mean, there's so much stuff, but there is one somewhere in the auction.
In
That
the
is,
Alex in the Alex auction.
yeah, and they're super super rare. With the original, Exterminator company, hold on here. Is it this one? Um, no, that's not it. It's somewhere. It's I'll if I can figure it out, I'll let you know. But I know it's as I said, we have one somewhere in the auction, and um, but we eventually had to, or as I said, he had to stop using it. So that's when
Oh,
he went.
you have it as a pass. You have it on a backstage pass.
I know it's on a pass, but I really know that we have a symbol in one of the lots that is yeah, there's the passes, lot 1030 and 1031 for that matter. But again, that was the original tour in '84. But what I'm
Yeah,
saying is that we do have a symbol from the
who's
2000s
that
where he
guy?
first started using it, that still had that man with the hammer, and that was the infamous symbol that led to the cease and desist. uh, I know it's somewhere in the auction, I just can't remember where.
Oh, and it's on a drum, or it's on a cymbal.
Maybe it's on a drum, maybe it's by itself. uh, yeah,
Wow.
no, it's not there. Um, I
Yeah.
went to the section of what is called symbols and gongs, or gongs and symbols. Um, yeah, symbols and gongs. I think it's somewhere in there. Um, yeah, it's not the autographed. It's one of the used ones, I think.
Wow.
You
Hmm.
know, because there's a Reverend L, but again, that's already the one with the
Mm-hmm.
flipping the bird guy.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, that was again, it's one of those fun stories, that
Interesting.
yeah, you would never
Yeah.
know.
We had never heard that.
Yeah,
That's
Mm-mm.
that's very cool.
yeah.
Wow. And that's interesting though, because I've, like I said, out here in California, I see those trucks every day.
Hmm.
We have a horrible rodent problem out here. And so I see them nonstop driving around, and you see the character on the back, or
Hmm.
actually they don't really have the characters on the back so much anymore. They just have them on the sides of the trucks, you know.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'll go up and I'll take a selfie, I'll be pointing at the truck. And I got caught one time by the guy who drove the truck, by the exterminator guy himself. He came out and he saw me taking a photo in front of his truck. And I told him I'm a huge Van Halen fan, and he knew the entire thing. And he had said something like in one
That'll
of
be
the
$10.
offices. Yeah, he wanted money for one thing. But he and I'm like, you didn't. I'm like, the rats are still in my house. But anyway, he knew the. I think at most Western exterminators know the Van Halen connection, at
Oh,
least
sure.
you
Yeah,
know back
yeah,
in the early '80s.
yeah, sure.
So, but yeah. So, any questions? Any questions in the chat? Any questions, you guys? Truck's parked outside my house. Skyprop is saying, "Yeah, yeah." My cat, he brings the rats in and stuff all the time. But um, I don't know. Is there any particular item in the lot, in the Alex Van Halen lot, that you're like shocked, like when you saw it, or anything like you think is like the most interesting?
You know, uh, I kind of knew what was there. Over the years of talking back and forth, and
Mm-hmm.
John being at the warehouse and taking pictures. So I kind of knew what was there, what was coming. Um, um, so I wasn't necessarily too surprised. I wasn't surprised with like the drum kits because I knew about those, and I wasn't surprised, with the gongs or the road cases, or the miscellaneous kick drums and all that. I think um, the awards, I think, were a surprise to me. I hadn't expected Al to be generous enough to say, "Yep, take him." Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, we found a couple boxes of old books, from the family home. Um, uh, in a way, you can argue like, who cares? But I think they're special. They're unique. Again, it's one of those little rare insights. This is a family that in 1962 went on an adventure without really knowing anything. They just stepped on a boat, and a month later arrived in a strange country, and from there had to just figure it out, so to speak. And they brought everything with them, including their books. They were still little kids, and They all these books are in Dutch, or at least a good chunk of them. And then you can tell that when as the years go by, they start to, read more and more in English. And I think that are just nice little mementos, of their personal life. And what I like is almost without exception, every single book is stamped, and Alex had this stamp, Eddie had this stamp, and they would stamp their names in every single book, So, for anyone who would buy, a lot of these books, um, it's like you can say, hey, this came from the Van Halen family home. That's actually you actually picked the one that doesn't have the stamps. The one
Whoa.
that doesn't.
But
Um,
I think
but
I think I know what this. Whoa.
but what's cool about these is that so the top two, that's Eugenia Van Halen, that's the mother who wrote her name in those books, and the bottom two is Jan Van Halen, who's the dad.
Yeah.
So that's cool about those. But if you go to the previous lot, or there you
Like
go. No,
that?
they did. Yeah, they did stamp it. They did stamp it. I mean, how cool is that? I mean,
That's
you can say,
amazing.
hey, I got the book that Al and Addie, read or thumbed through as little kids, and that came out of their family home's bookshelf. Is it a significant monumental item? No, it's not. But at the same time, and again, it may just be me. We'll see when the auction ends if it's just me. But um, I, I think this is unique. I think there's something
Oh,
really unique about it. And but if you can get out of this lot, click out of this lot and go to the one I think right above that. Um, okay, yeah, sorry, 1335. Um, So again, the books are just the books. It's a bunch of like encyclopedia type books. But click on that little black and white photo at the bottom. Um, that one. So you see those books right above Eddie's head. That's those
hmm.
books.
Wow.
You know, I mean, how cool is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And so this is stuff that they had,
Yeah, I mean,
and
Al saw it and we looked at it and we actually had a little bit of a discussion about those books, but kind of a weird story. But growing up, my parents had the same books, and so we talked about that, and Al's Dutch is not that great anymore, at least not on the speaking side. I mean, he understands it perfectly. Um,
I
you
was
know,
gonna ask if you and Alex had if you spoke to each other in Dutch at all.
we did, yeah, and he enjoyed that. He clearly enjoys listening or hearing it. The speaking part is hard, and I get that, because when you move at such a young age and then you know spend more than 60 years speaking a different language, then it's pretty much gone.
Hmm.
I moved when I was 30, and I'm 60 now, so I'm still fluent in both. Well, maybe not so fluent in English as I would like to be, but for me, it's a lot easier. But again, it makes a big difference when you move when you're, 6 or 7 years, or when you're 30. And but he told me a funny story though that of course he still got family there, and they try to usually do like one vacation, family vacation, like once a year, And they usually do it somewhere on the East Coast, so that all that he has to do is travel from LA to the East Coast, and the Dutch contingency just flies to the East Coast. And time wise, that's good. And they usually rent like a beach house or something, and spend the week and catch up on old stuff. So the ties are definitely still there.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
We got a question in the chat really quickly, and then I know we had said about an hour ish. So
Yeah.
we'll take a couple questions here. Music Stream is asking, ask about the family piano that Eddie used to play.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad somebody's asking that question, and that so when you look at the description, and it's actually there on the left, where it says, let me see here, towards the bottom where it says pianos and keyboards. So there were two pianos, and clearly this one says 1980s. So I don't want people to be under the impression that this is the 1960s piano. And there were two pianos. The first one, the first instrument that was bought by the parents to teach Ed and Al music, the one that they literally learned how to play music on, that and both ended up participating in or competing in competitions, classical piano competitions. That was the first piano. When Al moved out, he took that piano with him. That was the second piano. So this was the one that succeeded the first piano. Al still has the original first piano from the 60s. This one, that was the replacement one, we think it's from 1980. The problem with Wurlitzer is that the serial numbers are not quite reliable. That little piano quarter, as they call it, they actually started using that in 1978. So it's either late 70s or early 80s, but we wanted to play it safe in early 80s. So that piano replaced the one that Al took when he moved out. The piano was still used, by not only Eugenia and Jan, but also by Ed and Al when they were at the family home and just, had a, call it a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening meal and play a little piano. But this is what I would call more like the family piano, whereas the true first one, that's with Al. And there's kind of a little bit of a famous photo of like a living room, and I think it's Al sitting behind the piano. And then there's three other kids. One kid, I think, plays a saxophone. Another kid plays maybe a guitar. And I think I think it may be Eddie that's playing drums. You cannot really see that piano, but that is not that piano. I just want to make that clear. It's still, I think, an awesome piece, and I think it's, again, it's history, in my opinion. But we would definitely have listed this one very differently with a different title if this was the one from the 60s. So I hope that answers the question.
What do you think would be the most expensive thing sold?
Yeah, that's the one.
So that's the
okay.
photo.
So that's not Eddie obviously playing the drums. Is that, now I can tell from that photo, is that looks like Al playing the sax?
I think it is. I think it's Edward on piano, Al on sax, and two friends. I think they were called the Broken Combs.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
1964.
Yeah.
So that piano there, you're saying that's a different piano.
That is the true first family piano. When we saw the piano that we have in the auction, um, we first went like, oh my God, that's the one, and
Mm-hmm.
we were all convinced that was the one. Um, but then when we had it, and we pulled it apart, and as I said, looked at the serial number, looked at that what they call the little piano quarter.
Had the tape
Uh,
recorder, which would be later,
yeah,
right?
exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, well, hold on here, that doesn't make sense. They didn't do that in the '60s, and then we found out, and then L couldn't remember. uh, but then bless us, his wife Stina, she's fantastic. We love her. Um, she's like, well, hold on here. We got a piano at the house. And he's like, oh my God, yes, that's it. and then the story came
Oh,
back, so um, yeah, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't the piano, but it's still a Van Halen family piano, so
yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Wow. So awesome, man. So yeah. So I know we had said an hour ish. So I know
Well, our ish.
we're
I
at
got
the
to do a
ish.
couple more things to get
We
there.
passed the ish about an hour ago.
I know.
But Jacques, I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much
Yes.
for
Nice meeting
for
you.
uh
Nice.
thank you for reaching out.
Yeah,
Thank you for
I saw your podcast last week, because we kind of have a service that picks up, all the press, let's say the websites that put
hmm
that took
Mm.
our press release or anything else that reported about the auction, and your podcast came up, and I will send the link. So I clicked on it. I was like, this is fun. I mean, these are good guys, and and I loved your excitement, uh, so I thought, like, why not reach out and contribute, with a couple background stories or answer a couple questions or what have you, and hopefully it made for interesting listening.
definitely, man.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
this has been awesome, and
Yeah,
I want to definitely keep in touch because
yeah.
I'm a Kiss fan too.
Okay, all right.
So
I'm a
Well, we
Pantera
will
fan
definitely
also.
we will
So
definitely have plenty of auctions, coming up towards the future that are
well,
similar in nature.
you see my email right there. When the next Vinnie Paul stuff comes up, let me know.
Are you a big Pantera fan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, there's not going to be another Vinnie Paul auction. I mean,
Okay.
there's literally nothing left. And, so unfortunately I can't help you with that, but, um, um, I'm somewhat confident to say that we haven't done our last Pantera auction, if that
Okay.
helps.
Is uh I don't I can't remember her name. Dime's fiance.
Rita?
Yeah, she's not gonna let anything go, is she? Okay, well if you have anything on Dime coming up, let me know.
Stay tuned.
Okay. There's my email. Just send it to me.
I know. Well, the
awesome.
easiest part is just, I won't forget it, by the way, but if you go to our website and just sign up, which takes less than 60 seconds, then you will always get the email notifications of auctions. We make it a point, not to bombard people with emails. I don't like that myself. So we really limit, sending out emails to only when we have something to tell.
Okay.
And we usually only do like around 4 auctions a year, and hopefully you now understand, why that is, because it just takes a lot of time to put it together.
But that's
And
what I was saying last week. You know, 300 and some items. Imagine putting those together to take the photos and making everything arranged.
oh yeah.
There's got to be a lot of time involved in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and certain things are easy. A record award is one photo. A snare drum is one or two photos.
Yeah.
But once you start putting a kit together, first of all, depending on what kit it is, it can take a couple hours just to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to photograph it, from and there's so much detail that you take. We have a photo studio in our building. We have a professional photographer, but we easily take 40, 50, 60 photos. And then we go back and say, all right, let's take the best 10, 15, 20. But then you got to edit all these photos because you always want to take out the background and, make everything look good. I mean, it's all it takes. It takes a lot of time. And so, like for instance with these larger drum kits, you can usually only do like 2 at most on a day. So but a lot of the time went into the research, just the trying to figure out, especially like with these snare drums, I mean the snare drums are fascinating to me. I mean, each snare drum has a story, and if L is known for many things, but his snare sound is so well known. And what I like so much is like the drummers that he influenced. That they all talk about the Tama rosewood snares. That's like, I think what Randy's polka dot guitar is, for Randy fans, or the Frankenstrat for Eddie fans, or you can go on and on. I think for a lot of drummers, it's like these Tama rosewood snares, and they're phenomenal, and they're extremely rare. I mean, forget about the fact that L owned these and that L used them on tour and album recordings. To even find these, I mean, I have seen Tama rosewood snares, sell for between $7,500 and $10,000, just for the drum. Forget about the provenance, the ownership, the history. I mean, they are really, really special, and the moment we announced this auction, I got a lot of texts from drummers. Oh my God, I mean, it's all they talked about. I mean, John Tempesta of the Cult, he was, I mean, literally like 5 minutes within when we went live with the preview, he's like, oh my God. And maybe half an hour later, Charlie Benanti of Anthrax, oh my God, the Rosewood, and I've had several more since, I mean, it's special. And I'll tell you a funny story too, and maybe that will be a nice closing story.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the warehouse, Al's there, we're looking at all this stuff, and John says to him, he said, I'm missing snares, because I haven't seen this one, I haven't seen that one, I haven't seen that one. And he said, it makes me a little nervous, because they can't just walk out of here. And he said, so do you know where they are? And Al said, I don't know. And John says, well, think, they got to be somewhere. And I certainly didn't, give them to anyone or let anyone use them. So he sits there for a minute and he says, oh, now I know. I gave them to Wolfie, because Wolf called me and he said, Uncle, I am working on my second album and I don't like my snare sound. Can I borrow some of your snares? And this is for the Mammoth 2 album. So Al said, sure, just go in there and take whatever you want. So Wolf had, grabbed a whole bunch of snares. And he said, so he has them. He said, you know what? Let me call him. So while we're there, he calls Wolfie and he picks up and he said, hey, do you still have the snares? And he said, yeah, I do. And he said, where are they? He said, they're at the studio. He said, all right. He said, well, can you come and, give them or bring them over here? And he said, no, I can't. I'm busy. I'm doing this, that, and the other. So he looks at me and he said, do you want to go to 5150 to go and pick him up? I mean, what question is that? Of course, I would walk backwards without shoes to go and do it. And
I'd go over there naked, man.
we're naked,
Dude,
backwards, and
backwards.
so sure enough, I was like, all right, I'll go.
No
So I went
way.
there, and I ended up spending 3 hours, 4 hours at
Oh, man.
5150. And not just to pick up the snares, but literally going through every inch of the building, and just look at, the original recording equipment and all the guitars and all the cables and all the set list. And, Eddie had saved the Hollywood Bowl set list, and wrote on it, like last gig, and taped it on the wall. And the most
Wow.
fascinating, because that's 5150 was built over X amount of years, and it started off as one building, then it became two, then three, then four, and eventually five. So it's like an accordion almost of five buildings. And so but it's all open. So once you go all the way to the back, the last room, the fifth room, it's really cool because it's like in the center is this Steinway piano that was the studio piano, but Ed used it for recordings. I mean, everyone knows the intro to Right Here, Right Now. That was
Mm-hmm.
recorded on that piano, and it's just sitting there. But what's truly fascinating, and there's photo. I'm not telling anything new, but because people have been in 5150, they've taken photos. But there's that room in the back, and you got to envision like a U-shaped, room, and almost from floor to ceiling, it's nothing but shelves with 2-inch recording reels. And there are literally thousands of recording reels of unreleased music, and I'm standing there and I'm looking at a shelf, and it says L Ed and Ozzy, and it has like 5 6. Yeah, there you go,
Something
that's the
like
room.
that.
That's the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a whole row of recordings that Al and Ed did with Ozzy. And then the next section says Al, Ed, and Chris Cornell. And then there's a whole row of recordings with Chris Cornell. And it goes on and on and on. And I mean, it gave me chills, I mean, it just, it silences you, it makes your head spin. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, we're just mere mortals, I mean, for them, this is just stuff, not just stuff. But it's, it's, you know, breathtaking. Really, it is, so, um, I, for me personally, when I think of the snares, I will never forget how it came together. Missing snares, them being used by Wolfie, him not having the time, Al asking me if I want to run up to the studio, being there, getting the grand tour, and seeing all this history, and just, kind of being in, it's like the Van Halen mecca. There's no other word for it. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was fascinating. I those are those moments that you forget that you're even an auctioneer, and that this is business. That's when I literally forget all that, and I'm you're just a fan. And and you realize, like, how lucky you are, You know, I mean, there's no other word for you. Just lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah,
Wow.
good stuff.
That's so cool.
Good
Dude.
stuff. Yeah.
Dude. Well,
So
Jacques, thank you. Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for the stories.
yeah, my pleasure.
Um, we'll continue to talk about the auction, you know,
Okay.
when it starts,
Okay.
and and we'll just keep on, man.
Sure. 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 Absolutely. And don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out to me and anyone looking and listening to this podcast. Um, I started this business. I know I own it, but I'm just a guy who loves it. And I'll make time for anyone to answer questions. And because again, I just love this stuff. And I just feel honored, that I'm in a position where I can help, getting it from A to B, from one
Mm-hmm.
person to the next person. And,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope everyone, will enjoy it, and that an auction like this, answers a couple questions, and shows people some stuff that they have never seen before. And, I think we all know that, it's tough to be a Van Halen fan, because I think if there is one fan base that has not been spoiled, it's probably Van Halen fans. You can go to the other end of the spectrum and be a Kiss fan and just go like, stop, enough. Uh,
Try
or
telling
you
that to Gene.
right? Or you can be a Van Halen fan and go like, give me something, give me a crumb,
We want
any,
more. We
you
want
know,
more, but at the same time, we're very thankful for everything that we've gotten.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely, absolutely, so, and to be able to, as I said, just contribute and make it available and tell some stories and show some stuff that you've never seen before, never knew about. I mean, it's cool. So I hope
Mm-hmm.
people appreciate it. I hope people had fun with it. We certainly had fun putting it together. And anyone who decides to participate in the auction, good luck. Have fun with it. Don't get mad. Don't get frustrated. It's at the end of the day, there can only be one person that wins a lot or buys a lot. But I think there's hopefully something for everyone, and we really really tried hard to spread it out. And I know there are some things that have a big price tag on it, and I get that. But I think it has to, because it's that significant. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
museum stuff. Pieces that easily can be or even have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But you
Mm-hmm.
know what? We also have things for $50 and $100, and so I always try at least to spread it out and create some diversity, and so that everyone should be able to hopefully walk away with something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but thanks
Yeah.
for your time. Thanks for inviting me. I truly appreciate you, Johnny, you, Ron, for having me on your show. And maybe we'll get to do this again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Jacques,
Thanks again, guys. Have a great evening,
thank you so
and
much.
we'll see each other later.
Okay.
All righty.
Be
All right.
good.
Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Bye bye. All right, you guys. Very good. You guys, again, backstage auctions. We got the link right there. Let me just change the background real quick. There we go. Ron, dude, those stories just
Oh, I know. That's great.
Incredible stuff. And I know you're the Pantera guy. So you did get some some Pantera stuff.
I didn't say anything about Randy. He brought it up when he quoted about the guitar.
Oh, yeah. That's, I mean, it's all iconic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So yeah. Any last minute questions? We're gonna bounce, you guys. There is some more news in Van Halen world. Actually, I think we'll talk about some of this stuff tomorrow. We'll go live tomorrow, probably same time or something, and do another show for you guys tomorrow. Greasy Monkey Guitars, that was an amazing show. You keep raising the bar, dude. Thank you. I know what I'm doing here, man. I've only been doing this 10 years.
The 10 other Johnny Beans don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's obvious. Okay, the Wednesday auction, it starts June 1st, I believe, is the date. And
Through the 9th.
So I think it's starts Saturday, and it runs until the following Sunday, it looks like. Closes June 9th at 2 p.m. is what it says on the website here. If you guys want to check out the video we did last Wednesday, there'll be a card at the very end of this video for you guys. It'll look something like this. Although today's video will look something like this too. It'll be a different color. It'll be slightly the card for tonight's show will be slightly different, but somewhat the same because you know. But again, I just want to thank Jacques for reaching out to us and telling the stories and yeah, he'll definitely be back. So, all right. So again, link over there, link down below. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, we'll do another exclusively Van Halen. I'm telling you guys, this is a daily show. That's what it's turned into. Daily shows and podcasts for you guys. But let's just say thank you to our channel members. Thank you for your continued support for this channel and these shows. Thank you so much, you guys. All right. So check out last week's video. Again, card at the end of this video. Just you can run from this one to that one. It'll be that easy. Just click on the card at the very end. It'll be the yellow one.
Sky Prop, before you go, it'll probably be Sunday. Unless something happens. I'm talking about getting your pedal to him.
No idea what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I need to get that guitar to you. Okay. All right, you guys. Smash that thumbs up. Follow us. Follow us, you guys. Everywhere. We're everywhere. Exclamation point link. Or S. I think I changed it. It's actually both. They both go to that. There you go. So follow us everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right?
Later,
Thank
everybody.
you, Ron. Thank you,
you,
guys.
John.
You're welcome, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This is Johnny Bean TV. Where's the ending? All right. Bye-bye.
At the end.